Good evening, and welcome to the conversation on systemic racism, where we will have dialogue for action and change. I'm Carissa, journalist, small business owner, and it is my pleasure to host this discussion today. I'm really excited, and I believe people in this room are valuable, or have valuable input that will help for the citizens. Please feel free to hang on to any questions that you may have as the Q&A section will follow.
First of all, I want to say thank you, Portland, for allowing us to come into your space. We honor that. We definitely respect that. You all are doing the doggone thing, and the country sees it, and we're here. My name is Samantha Hudson. So where I am today, I reside in Atlanta. I am a mother of 4. I just graduated my first college student, the first African-American male in my bloodline to attend and graduate college in December the 19th. My background is real simple. It's really, and over now, I'm at 2 years of public service. Now working as an educator for elementary schools, and also organizing. I'm here today really to engage you guys on a real level. Today, right, we're here. Why are we here? Why did I fly in and all these people, one of the people are here today to talk about this conversation about systemic racism, right? In America, no secret. And this dialogue, we want to move from just action to change, right? And so how are we going to do that? And why? Raise the consciousness of Portland citizens on the nature of oppression has had on the Black community in order to guide our white allies and others who desire to use their privilege, abandon their prejudicial opinions, perspectives, and be sincere in their efforts and outreach for policy reform. When we talk about systemic racism, we have to understand how the biology, the psychological, the sociological, and the economic damage that this system set out to do. When we look at biology and systemic racism, we're talking about even how slave masters bred children during slavery. It was only certain type of men and women who lay down together because we had to be a certain type of slave. When we began to move into our history, we got to understand that has impacted this particular system, and it has afforded no opportunity for Black or brown individuals to have equity or equality in no shape, form, or fashion in any institution in America. So systemic racism is what you see. It's what you see on the news. It's what you feel when you are. Systemic racism is the red line. Systemic racism is lack of access to mental health care. Systemic racism is lack of access to regular health care. Red line, bank loans, systemic racism, the school to the pipeline. And so very quickly, I'll say this and I'll pass this mic, because I have been a victim on every level of systemic racism. Growing up in the city of Chicago, I dropped out of high school at 16 years old and became pregnant. There was no one there to support, no one there to guide, In my community, the average life expectancy of a Black male was 18 years old. The social welfare policies in 1980, that it was more likely than a Black African American girl to be 18 than she would go to college. The same statistics for Black boys, that it was more likely for Black boys to enter into a prison cell before going to college. And I sit here today as a parent of one of those Black men. At the age 14 years old, entered into the Illinois juvenile, and at 33 years old, still now continues that journey in a state penitentiary in the state of Illinois. You'll hear more as we go about systemic racism, but I just wanted to share that with you guys to help you understand that when we begin to talk about racism, it is not about what you hear. It is not about the textbook version. This is real life. It is rooted in biology. Think about biology. I'm saying it again. It's rooted in sociology, and it's rooted in the economics. So when you look, you're going to see a black out and a black not, but you're going to see a white have and always will. That's systemic racism.
I'm Frank Lee. I'm a community activist. I pretty much travel across the country and try to organize different groups of Black Lives Matter activists. We all have to be on the same page, and we have to be effective in what we're trying to do. This is a national movement. It's not a local movement, and we have to make sure that we mind ourselves that what we do across the country affects each other. So as I go around and travel, I march from Wisconsin, Washington D.C. George Floyd, and a lot of people know me from that, but I've been in the community doing activist work for years, fighting for families that don't have a voice, or for families that usually don't get a lot of attention or national attention for the things that they do, and I'm pretty much trying to use my platform to bring light to those situations and cases that a lot of people don't bring light to. This is a revolution, and stick together and fight it out. So I'll talk more once my time to talk, pretty much my introduction of who I am. Systematic racism is like basically policies and practices that exist throughout a whole society or organization. So a lot of times we talk about the obvious things when it comes to systematic racism, school systems, just pretty much the neighborhood, the way we were raised, the way we grow up, the financial literacy that's not taught in our community. Obviously the redlining and property is a major thing, not owning property. We always remember that, justice, in the justice system, we can get all the laws changed we want, but if we don't own anything, if they still own everything, then we won't have any change. You know what I mean? So at some point, you gotta realize that the scale is a scale, because on one side you have equality, and on the other side you have equity. So it's very important to remember what they said about equity. But there we go. When I think about systematic racism, I think about it in a manner that we may not think about it in a way that we can change things. For example, we have a lot of white people that sit in here. So systematic racism is white privilege. That's a form of systematic racism. When you think about the fact that at home, you have, every white person has a white person that they know that's racist. And they allow them to live in that circle that they live in. They continue to do business with these white people. They continue to eat dinner with these white people. You know what I mean? These white people are allowed to operate a certain way in our society without anybody ever questioning their behavior. That's a form of systematic racism. Because you're programmed to think like that. You're raised to think that it's okay that your dad is a racist. You know what I mean? You're raised to think that there's no way that I can talk to my cousin or my brother about the racism that he has inside of him. And those are the things that I think about when we talk about systematic racism, because those ideas are the things that create systematic racism. Those people grow up and they move. Some of those kids don't grow up rejecting their father and their mom's ideas like the people in this room and the people that protest with. Some of those kids, they grow up idolizing their parents and wanting to be everything like their parents. So when that is impeded inside of them, when those privileges are said to be something that they should have and not be ashamed of, and when that behavior is something that they believe is something that no one has ever said in front of them, no other parent has ever said to the parent, hey, no cousin, no brother, they just allow it to happen, then the kids grow up thinking it's okay. And that's a part of the system that creates individuals that grow up in small towns that don't know anything about black people, go to college and then get a job in a black city, go to college and get a job in a major city, and now they're not the judge of their own people, they're not the lawyers of their own people, they're not the individuals that are going to prosecute their own people, they're prosecuting the people that they've always heard negative things about their whole life. And when you look at a society that grows and we try to grow, we have to remember that in order to fight systematic racism, it's not just about the politicians, it's not just about the billionaires and billionaires that control everything that we do. It's also about the people that's on the ground and people like us at the bottom that allow people to exert that racism, are at home right now watching, that have a cousin and a brother and a sister, and even a lover, a husband, that said, why are you going out there protesting with the black people? Why are you going out there marching with the black people? Why are you going out there filming those black people? Those are the people that we need to fight systematic racism against. And those are the people that I like to worry about, because those are the people that we can alienate right now. Those are the individuals and things that we can change right now. We say we want to leave this room with change. So when y'all go home, make sure that y'all point that out and let those white racist people know in y'all family, y'all not going to continue to support what they do as they do business with them and change it the way that you think and govern your own personal lives.
Primary function. Having been a street kid and in the city, I was very intimate with the details of downtown. All the things that go along with being homeless gives you very intimate knowledge of where to be, where not to be seen, how to be safe, where it's going to be, where you're able to catch your breath, and obviously, my activism began through my mother, who in San Francisco was at the forefront of the lesbian activism in the city, which then where she was the head of the LCP, Lesbian Community Project, and a slew of other stuff, which is about her. But I learned it from her and worked with the AIDS Foundation in San Francisco as a small child, and with Cascades Project, and then with Nestor Trials and stuff in the 90s when we had a lot of racial disability come to the forefront of the news when they declared Portland as Little Beirut. And it's growing on a specific aspect of systemic racism that you may or may not be aware of. I am going to ask you, though, with a show of hands, how many of you are property owners? Okay, how many of you are renters? Okay, how many of you feel or think alone on an equal basis as someone who's a different color than you? I know it's tough when I worded that weird. This all ties into redlining, for those of you who aren't familiar with what that is and how it works. Imagine a system that says where you live and the people around you determines whether or not you get a loan, whether or not you can, whether you can accrue property, whether you can pass something on to your family after you worked hard for 30 years. Nope, you're locked into renting because you live in the wrong zip code, because the majority of your zip code is darker than flesh tone crayons. Just think about that. It's built into the system. It's not something that people who actually go to work for the system think about, because the policy that's already in place is accepted by everyone around you, forcing you to be the one person that has to stand up and say this is wrong, which is why we're here, to stand up and say that this is wrong.
Gary Boyd, activist, community organizer, mutual aid.
Once again, systemic racism is just one form of racism. The definition of systemic racism is it is embedded into normal practice, a social practice. So with it being a social practice, it just gives you an idea to the depth of how bad racism has become. It's a social practice. Systemic racism is also institutional racism and structural racism, all in one and the same. It is embedded into all aspects of our medical, homeowners, like we just talked about, any any type of financial institution, it was all based on a system that was embedded within our society hundreds of years ago. So now it seems as if there's nothing wrong and it is all wrong. So that means that the system has been embedded and it's working way too well. And the part about the systemic means that it just constantly recycles itself. So right now, it's running on autopilot, and it has been. There's nobody pushing buttons or nothing because it seems as if it has been normal practice. And so what that means is no one even is paying attention to it because it seems as if it's normal. It's normal for Black and brown people to not own homes. To see all the hands that went up renting speaks volumes. Everyone in here should own a home. Everyone in here has a right to own property. That's a very important example when it comes to the systemic part of racism. Two polar opposites, white, Black, polar opposites. It's normal for the average white teenager to car for their 16th birthday. Vacations with the family in the cabin, trips to the beach, it's normal. Surfing, jet skiing, it's normal. I know nothing about that. That would definitely be considered luxury within the Black community. Because if you're doing those things, unfortunately for us Black folk, you either bounce and dribbling the ball or got a mic in your hand. So, in order for us to achieve some of the things that you guys just by right have gotten, we need to prance around, dance around, be above and beyond some physical specimen. And that's about, I'm not even going to percentages on that. But the average Black man will never be Michael Jordan or Frank Nitty. just put it out there. And so it's so normal that you guys have to understand what Ty was telling you. You really have to unlearn everything. And you need to think about that. You need to think about it. Because it's 100% all the way. It's not 70, 80, 50, 40. John Lewis said, unless you're willing to change everything, nothing will change. And for our white allies, that literally starts with you, and you need to internalize that, unless you're willing to change everything. Everything.
Thank you.
Black and brown lives don't need people to align with them that aren't willing to understand at least what it is that we are trying to accomplish. And if you don't have the willingness to even attempt to do that, you are putting Black and brown lives in danger. You are contributing to the systematic oppression of Black and brown people. And you are one of the ones on the front line, like Ty said. You're actually actively involved in systemic racism. And to be out here on the front lines, all of us, and to see stuff on social media where you have white people attacking Black people within the movement, So, if you're gonna ally yourselves with anyone, any movement, any person, any ideology, it's 100% complete, total, without a question. If you don't have the ability to take direction within the movement, then there is no movement. We all have opinions, and right now, it's not the time. So you will ally yourselves with us in this struggle. We appreciate y'all. Peace out.
So my name is Mia Derry. I'm the Executive Director of the PDX Alliance for Self-Care and also provide leadership, medic, and crisis support collective, interim chair, the board for Campus Compact in Oregon, and I'm also on the board for the Community Health Center that oversees the Multnomah County Health Centers. So, and she or they represent. So we're talking about systemic racism. One of the reasons that I try to be in so many different places is because systems of oppression are everywhere, and I want to amplify what you said, Katie. They are working exactly as they were intended, and so now they seem normal. And the only way that we can fight them is if we recognize them. I don't feel like I can add anything to all of these great definitions, but I just want to say thank you for having me today.
I heard systemic racism and I heard systematic racism, and I just wanted to touch on how those are two different things. So like, what systematic racism is basically things that are put in place, like a whole entire system put in place to hold down Black people. So something that's like systematic racism would be like mass incarceration or redlining. So it's like an entire system that is put in place to hold down Black people and not help them succeed. Systemic racism is basically like people participating in different parts of systematic racism. So like systemic racism would be like you going in to the bank to get a loan, but redlining is stopping you as a whole from getting a loan for your property, but systemic racism is the person that is literally stopping you from getting that loan. They're participating in systematic racism. So there's a difference between the two when we're talking about systemic racism. That is like personal racism that is affecting you, that is a part of the whole as systematic racism. Because of systemic racism would be things like going in for something like a loan and getting a loan because of the color of your skin, or getting accepted into a college, or like the thing about systemic racism, it's like I'll speak on that. So the thing about systemic racism is literally like people think that racism doesn't exist, but it's like if it really did exist, we wouldn't have to put like what ethnicity you are on like a job application, what ethnicity you are on like a apartment application. Like that stuff matters because they look at that stuff, and that is benefiting from systemic racism. Someone who has more or maybe the same amount as knowledge as you on something, like a job application, and you go in and like that person's name or that person's hair, like they're Black, like they don't get that job just for that reason. That is systemic racism. Okay. Well, also to speak on what my sister was talking about just a second ago, as far as the Black Lives Matter movement. I don't know how many of you guys know much about the Black Lives Matter organization, but we are not the same. Like, I cannot stress that enough. We are not the same as the Black Lives Matter organization. We do things very different. We are grassroots. We are in the streets, and we are pushing for policies. We are not a political movement. We're here for human rights. And something also, I've been reading this book. It's called Post-Traumatic Stress Syndrome by Joy McGrew. I suggest that you watch it. Or not watch it, read it. But it's a really good book. And basically, she was talking about coming in and unlearning these things of white supremacy. The trauma that we live with when we're born is something similar that white people have to live with when they're born as well. And it's the trauma of white supremacy. And post-traumatic stress syndrome is literally like us being affected by what our ancestors went through, which is why we have things in the Black community like colorism and stuff like that, and like Black parents being a little bit more aggressive towards their parents, that stuff, or towards their kids. That stuff comes from post-traumatic stress syndrome. And white supremacy is exactly the same. Unlearning those things that your ancestors were doing to Black people and stuff that you're doing unknowingly, you have to wake up every morning and practice unlearning those things as a white person. Because the most dangerous place for a Black person to live is in that white person's imagination. Because white people are so afraid of us. Like, so just understanding that we have to unlearn those things of slavery, of what it was like to be a slave, those slave tendencies. We have to unlearn that stuff as black people and white people. We have to unlearn those white supremacy traits of thinking that you are better, thinking that you have to compete in a way that you have to be on top, feel like you always have to take up the most space in the room. Those are unlearning things of white supremacy.
Not confuse anyone, let's break it. Systemic, as an English teacher, chronic, something that is deeply rooted, something that is intertwined, cannot be broken unless forcibly removed. You got that? Okay, so I'm gonna shift a little because one of the things as we begin to think about this space, right? We want to be authentic in this space because you guys came here for a reason. A lot has been going on in Portland, and we're gonna address the elephant in the room. Because I flew across the country because I was very concerned about the outcries in this community. And I just want to pause to say thank you to Carissa for being courageous and doing something new and different, and that she owned that I didn't know anything about how to do this. But she cared enough and wanted to move toward change for Portland to have this venue. So I just want to pause right now. Let's give her some love really quickly. So we got the kinks out of the way right now, so we're going to get to the real stuff. And the real stuff is that there's a narrative I have grave concern about that's going across our country, not just in Portland. Our plight is not a hashtag. Hashtag Black Lives Matter does not represent the black plight. That may be hard for some people to understand in this room, but I'm going to share with you that it is a politically engineered organization, and not one dime is benefiting the black children and the bloodshed in the black community. Let's start there. And so white people in the room, you can't be here and be comfortable because we got to have this conversation. That when we talk about systemic racism, we're also talking about a mindset. And it is your responsibility to come into this room and be ready and prepared to release those prejudices, make a commitment that you are going to unlearn and learn how you can align yourself with the black community. Because see, what I understand about Black Lives Matter and allies, everyone is not for us. You are part of the movement, but you are not for us. Being a part of the movement and not being for us, what does that look like? Portland is a corporate head. I did my homework. I want to know, how did Black Lives Matter before George Floyd's death in Portland? When I looked at your school systems and identified that you now only have 3 minority middle schools left in the state, in the city of Portland. And when we talk about the minority, I think it was 1 middle school, a high school, but there are 3 to 4. Most of them are been phased out. So to those who have privilege in the room, you have to understand that your privilege requires you to align yourself in a way where your mouth is speaking to your lawmakers about Black lives mattering in Portland and making sure that they have access to mental health care, that they have access to equity in education, that they have access to appropriate housing and mental health services. And I keep saying access because Portland is rich in resources. You are not shy of resources here. So if you want to really spiral this movement for Black people, Portland, we need for you to set the narrative straight. Over 400 years of oppression of Black people leaves us right now the most hated, the most degraded, the most segregated human race on this earth. And that's a problem. And until we matter, there will be no peace. And so I want to help the allies in this room understand what your role is. You don't need to be leading a march. You don't need to be there. Your tax dollars is going to move mountains. It's something wrong. Income in Portland is not less than $45,000. And schools in black communities are being closed. What have you done to align yourself with the policies in this city? What are the policy focuses that the ACLU have as it relates to the black plight in Portland? Take notes, I'm warning, because I want you all to understand that, yes, I don't give a doggone about nobody burning down no building and none of that, no, but don't do it in the name of black life. We don't need another negative, nothing attached to us already. Let my people go. And I came here today and I wrote a whole lot of stuff, y'all. I studied, I researched because I want to do justice when I come into this space for reporting and let you all know that I cared enough to know what you all were about. And so I saw that you guys had the courage. You all about that life, but it is about really the black life. You have to address that in this room. So when we talk about our objective, hold us accountable now, because our objective is to raise the consciousness. So we got to be on the same page in this room. And then in that, in order to, why are we raising the consciousness? In order to help you to relinquish that negative prejudices, comfortable, and all that other privilege that you have, so that you can get to a place where you understand that you write the letter of the law with your tax dollars. We don't own the homes. We don't. And so I'm going to move from here, but I'm going to relinquish this question because we got to keep this moving. Carissa asked you all about systemic racism. And no one in here bothered to say anything. That's the problem. It's going to get uncomfortable in here, but we're going to leave out right. So we're going to ask you that question again. And before that question comes, I'm going to lay the question on the table. Have you benefited from systemic racism? Hey, come on, y'all.
I got grants to go to design school. I can go into stores and not be profiled. I can, I don't know. I have, I mean, my whole life as a white woman is benefiting off of systemic racism. I don't get questioned as much. I don't get profiled as angry if I'm speaking my opinion. It's just, it's endless. I mean, it's freaking endless. I could just keep, yeah, there's just so many. There's so many off the top of my head. Thank you.
I wanted to first talk about my own privilege, my light skin privilege, that I benefit from every day in so many ways. I am just subjected to less like hateful, outright, blatant, macro-aggressive racism as I walk down the street and go to the store and a million other things, just when I move through the world. And when I first started thinking about trying to take up space within my Black community with my light skin privilege, one of my friends gave me an article that talked about how light-skinned Black people need to step back and make space for darker-skinned Black women and femmes in leadership. And I remember when I read that, I had a moment of like, but what do you mean? Like, I worked my ass off to get white people to listen to me for 30 seconds, and you want me to like give that up for somebody else? And then I was like, oh shit, that's my fragility. And like sitting with that shitty feeling of like realizing that I was like benefiting from and then also pushing back against the reality was a really like important turning point in the work that I try to do for our community. So I do always try to amplify and elevate the voices of darker skinned Black women and femmes who have so much fucking hardship to get through every fucking day. And the other thing I wanted to mention along with that, and we were talking about post-traumatic slave syndrome, is epigenetics and trauma. The way that the 400 plus years of our people's enslavement has changed our DNA so that we are more susceptible to the stress and also in some ways more resilient. Yes? So when I'm talking about systemic racism, I'm always thinking about it from the DNA out.
Do we really need the racist people at this point? Like, do we trust them if we actually do teach them about systematic racism and they say, oh, I get it now? You know what I mean? Don't we kind of like I think about the people in this room, like how many of the white people in this room did get a car at 16? You see what I mean? It's sort of like when you ask how many white people in this room are homeowners. So a lot of times I think about like, will they even hear the message? Because we're not like talking to them. We're talking to the white people that like are poor with us. A lot of times, to be honest, like I know they don't say nothing because they feel like they don't want to be rude or disrespectful, but they be sitting there like, I didn't get a car. Like, I don't own my home. Like, I'm broke, man. All my friends have been Black my whole life. I get it, okay? Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, do we really think we be talking to the racist white people that like don't care about what's going on with the Black Lives Matter? When we speak like on my live, do I really think that this is the racist white people that are listening to this? You know, those are the things I think about, like when I think about my allies. Like one of the interesting things I heard was about the racism inside of the protest. See, that's a problem. That's something we need to talk about. That's something that have to be addressed. Things like that, because that's the group that's sitting here now. You know what I mean? When we talk about the things that's going on in these communities. So I was thinking about that, and I appreciate everything everybody said was like so on point. But like, do we have the audience that's going to listen to that needs to be convinced? Or do we have the audience that we need to strengthen and let them understand that we got the numbers already? When we walk down the street now, you got people faking like they Black Lives Matter. That's the first time in the existence of the movement you ever seen that. People used to be like, fuck Black people when Dr. King them marched. They were like, fuck Black people, get out the street, Cone, get out the street, nigga. They was proud to say it. They was proud. But now, when you walk down the street, people are embarrassed to be those same individuals. You got people that'll throw a black fist up just so you don't mess with them. Like Black Lives Matter, like, yeah, buddy. Like Black Lives Matter, right? They were like, yeah, Black Lives Matter, buddy. And that just shows that there's a change in this country. There's been a shift. Black Lives Matter, we're not the minority anymore. We don't have to ask those racist people for shit. We don't have to negotiate with them anymore. We ain't got to explain systematic racism anymore for them. They know it exists. They ignore it. They know they benefit from it. They know the benefits of it. They use it every fucking day. But it's also a difference in white people too. It's white people that don't have the same benefits as other white people. The white people in this room do not have the benefits of the rich white people that we refer to a lot of the times. You know what I mean? All of the benefits that we like referring to that we need change, the people in this room don't possess them. You know what I mean? That's why we have to rent out facilities just to have these things, because they don't own the buildings. You know what I mean? We don't have that white people with us that can just be like, hey, you guys can use my building every day. We got 7 buildings on the south side. You guys can hold up there. So we got to realize like who we talking to, what we can actually do, who our audience is, and what we can accomplish. Because other than that, we're going to have to clown fund. You know what I mean? And when I think about what you was talking about, the racism and the differences between the protests, I believe that because I'm in Milwaukee. Well, I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I travel across the country. What made me start traveling was the fact that when I walked through all those cities to walk to DC, they weren't allowed to protest a certain way. And I was like, what the fuck y'all talking about? In every city I walked through, black people was not allowed to protest a certain way. And they tried that shit with me. And I said, no. I said, we are gonna protest this way. And I realized that a lot of times that black people just didn't know their laws. So the police would make some shit up, tell black people, yo, you can't do this shit, and everybody freeze like, can we do this shit? They're like, I don't know, bro. Like, all right, I guess we can't do that shit. And then they move around. But then I realized the police don't know the law either. So you can tell them some shit. You can make some shit up on them. Section 5217 says, I can't walk down this street. And they be sitting there like, can they walk down this street? The police be sitting there like, oh, no, it makes sense. Oh, because they don't know the law. We got a whole, but that's a problem. We got a whole police force out here that don't know the law. That don't know the law that we going against. They don't know the law we trying to change. They don't even know the law that they trying to enforce. How can you enforce the law and you don't even know it? I got arrested on the same street that the sheriff marched down with me. Literally, the sheriff and police marched down the street with me, and then the next county I got arrested on that same street. So one sheriff telling me that you can march down the street, the other sheriff telling me it's against the law. You see what I'm saying? So we got to make sure that we strengthen what we got. We got to make sure that we organize as a people and we all stay on the same page. And even though we all not part of the organization Black Lives Matter, and I think it don't matter. Because at this point, it really ain't no way to separate. We dealing with racist white people that want to lump us up in one group. So when you look at what happened across the country, when y'all do something in Portland, it could be 500 white people out there. They're going to say the Black Lives Matter group did it. That's what they're going to say. You could say 1 billion times that you're not Black Lives Matter. So, because you're not as strong as the media that say you are Black Lives Matter. So we might have strength in just saying we Black Lives Matter. Whether it's an organization or a hashtag, we might have strength in saying that we one thing, because at the end of the day, we all fighting for change. You know what I mean? Everybody can keep their own group, everybody can keep their own initiative, but I think shying away from Black Lives Matter, and it's no disrespect, brother, because I do it too. You know what I mean? At times I do it too. But I think that shying away from Black Lives Matter really ain't always the way. I know they don't fund us, I know that they say that they're politically driven, but at the same time, whenever something goes wrong, they put it on Black Lives Matter, and then they say that we Black Lives Matter, and they treat all the groups and organizations like they Black Lives Matter, and they gonna use the same tactics. If something happened in Chicago right now, they gonna do something to y'all in Oregon. Y'all gotta understand that by now. This is a national movement. It ain't about your city no more. It ain't about this city. It ain't about your city. It ain't about the 20 groups here that's fighting over the city, protesting differently. Or, you know, it ain't about that, the 35 or however many of y'all got a lot of groups here. That's what I hear. I ain't know. I'll be real with y'all. Y'all got a lot of groups. I done been in a lot of cities. And they all divided. See, let me tell y'all something the white people and the police didn't figure out. Why they not tear gassing y'all that much no more. Y'all don't get tear gas like y'all do at the beginning. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all, somebody do something stupid, they gonna tear gas y'all. Y'all ain't gonna say nothing. Y'all gonna pretend like somebody didn't do something stupid if it ain't on camera. But y'all know somebody do something stupid at this point, that's when they tear gas us. In the beginning, they were tear gassing everybody. Everybody, all the time. So then you walked in the street, Tear gas, flashbangs, everybody throwing people, arrests, everything. And then they just stop one day. Do y'all know why they stopped? Do y'all know why they stopped for real? Do y'all really know why they stopped?
They want to spend more money.
No, you know why they really stopped? Because they was uniting us. Because when we first jumped out there, it wasn't not one group. It was just people marching for George Floyd. Everybody was marching. And the more they tear gassed us, the stronger we got, the more people came out. The more they beat us, the more that stuff they did. And then they backed up. And they said, I'm going to watch these niggas fight over themselves. And across the country, the protests got smaller. And they got smaller and smaller and smaller. And everybody arguing with each other. And they ain't got to do shit but watch us argue with each other. And take each other out and phase each other out. That's what I see across the country. That's what I see they doing to us. I'm being honest with y'all. In every city. I ain't been to a city that ain't going through all these groups and organizations fighting for the same thing at different times. Throwing protests the same day at the same time. For the same cause. How you gonna have two George Floyd marches across at the same time? That don't even make sense. How? It's a lot of stuff that I don't agree with that go on across the country. You know, but it ain't for me to tell y'all how to protest. I ain't here to tell y'all not to burn nothing. I ain't here to tell y'all not to set nothing on fire. But at the same time, y'all ain't got to step on each other's toes. If you go to a peaceful protest, don't do something violent. If you go to a peaceful protest, well, it is peaceful. You can be peaceful and non-violent. In Milwaukee, we didn't have people drive on their lawn. That's still peaceful. A lot of noise. You can be noisy. That's still peaceful. You can yell. I can yell right now. I love God. That don't mean I'm violent. You get what I'm saying? So when you talk about so when we talk about peaceful, what we're saying is not the rioting, not the brick throwing, not the stuff, not the agitating. You have people that want to peacefully protest like your grandma, like a 5-year-old kid that need their place in history, that need to be a part of something. Athletes and celebrities that can't go out there when you're doing all the rioting and stuff that want to support your cause. You have to differentiate the two. It's just the truth, because it's people that want to protest and support what you're doing, but they can't because of what you're doing goes too far sometimes. And when you separate the two, you say, okay, people, you can do whatever you want that goes too far. I'm not saying that you can't do that, but at least give me a choice. Don't have me in the front of a peaceful protest and then throw a brick from the back. So I get pepper sprayed because somebody threw a brick from the back and they ain't even man enough to throw a brick in front of the police. If you really man enough, stand in the front and throw a brick at the police. Stand right there and slap the police if you that bad. But don't no brick from the back that nobody see while we trying to talk to the police about moving out our way. Because we get pepper sprayed and it don't feel good. And you don't get pepper sprayed. You know what I mean? I'm being real. And I know y'all tired of that, right? Ain't y'all, let's be real, ain't y'all tired of like trying to do stuff a certain way and then somebody throw something? So we have to like make sure that we separate those groups and separate those individuals and organize in a manner where we know what's going on out there, where we can see what's going on and we continue to message to fight for change. When we watch all across the country, we don't see why y'all doing what y'all doing in Portland. That's just to be honest. We don't know what the hell going on. I be seeing 85 streamers and 12 protesters. I be like, everybody oppressed out there. Is that the secret, to wear press stuff and they'll beat you up? I'm like, I need to wear some press stuff. Maybe I won't get tear gas with the press no more. Cause I'm like the press follow the press, but the police beating up the press. I'm like the police beating up the press. I'm like, where the protesters at? You know, I'm being honest, I'll be confused. And it's nobody like talking. It's no dialogue, it's nobody explaining what's going on. It's just a bunch of, hey police, I hate you, you know, and that going on, and that's cool. But at the same time, like, I don't know what y'all demands are in Portland. I don't know. I've never heard no streamers say what y'all demands were. And if y'all did say it, it was like once or twice. Like, it should be something said every time that y'all protest. These are our demands. This is what we fight for at the beginning of y'all protest, at the end of y'all protest. You know what I mean? I don't see like that part. I don't see like, maybe it's just the night stuff. I don't see like the structure of, I don't even see how I start. Like I just turn my live on and people be like going down the street and they be turning through bushes and stuff. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like they don't even be chanting sometimes. They just be like walking and
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm being real with you, but what I'm saying is that I get it as I talk to y'all more. It's not a knock to y'all. I'm just telling y'all what the world see so that y'all can show a different message to the world. I'm just telling y'all the truth. That's what I see. And if y'all are doing it differently, I would love to learn and engage with y'all to see the best way to make it look like it should look.
I would like you guys to answer honestly. When you were asked for a definition of systemic racism, how many of you were uncomfortable that you did not have an answer? Please raise your hand.
Good, that's all.
Okay, so I want to touch on what my betters, my more educated people have touched on for you, because it involves education. I want each one of you to do exactly what I do, and I'm going to explain something to you. I'm black, in case you haven't noticed, and I do not have all the answers to all the questions. Okay, I almost said every night, that's not true. Most nights, I look up something and I read the shit out of it because I don't know. And it's not that I don't understand it, because I live it. But there's a difference between living something and understanding how to communicate it, and understanding how to share it with someone else in a fashion that they can then pass it on. And I want every single person in here to do just that. If you're uncomfortable with what your knowledge is, if you're uncomfortable about what was said, if you don't know the definition, go look it up. Every night, spend 10 minutes, look up something, and then pass it on, post it, repost it. That's what people are talking about here, about passing it on. Your job, all of our jobs, is to reach receptive people. It's not an all or nothing. It's not an all-encompassing thing. It's baby steps. Reach who's reachable. Teach who's teachable. Whatever it is, if it's one thing. I'm going to task you to read a book. It's an excellent book. It's changed many minds. It was written by a Republican who became a Democrat, or rather, a conservative who became a liberal. Okay, her name is Michelle Alexander. Okay, she wrote a book called The New Jim Crow. I suggest every single one of you read it. It will The New Jim Crow. This is about the age of mass incarceration, the class war that's going on, the new class that's created, and it's all rooted in systematic racism. It's all going to explain how a person who thought one way looked at the actual facts, did their deep digging, did their research, and went, shit, I'm on the wrong side. I was totally wrong. I had all the answers to why it didn't exist, and here it is in front of my face. And I've read this book probably 5 or 6 times. You can get it on audiobook and have her read it to you. I don't suggest that. Whoever's doing it is not a very good reader. But I'm not gonna lie, even she was like, man, okay. But it's there. And I task every single person in here to not be ashamed or anything other than uncomfortable with your lack of knowledge, and then put a verb on it and go do it. I do it. I'm black, I'm oppressed, I'm the recipient of all the stuff we're talking about, and I still don't know everything. I still don't know all the ways I can help, and I still don't have all the answers when people ask me. But then I go look. And not on Google, on DuckDuckGo, on some other stuff. Google will taint your answers, I'm not gonna lie. If you don't believe me, do a search on DuckDuckGo and Google and look at what's different, what they're not telling you, what the patent answers are not. And that's all I got for you, is to put some action behind what you're doing, and thank you for your time.
That's a great segue into our next topic, which is the action and change part.
When we talk about action and change, right, we heard a lot in this room tonight about systemic racism. We talked about actions, right, protest being one of the direct actions that we use, and that's great. I support that. But I want to share with you some of the work that I do. I forgot to mention early on when I introduced myself. I am the founder of a not-for-profit Vision Center of Hope Incorporated. This not-for-profit was recently birthed in May due to COVID-19 because of what I saw, that you already have a very vulnerable community, and now this pandemic comes and we're even more vulnerable. So when we start talking about actions, right, direct protest is only one option. And what I have and take issue with is now everybody has become systematic in protesting. There's a way to protest this way. Don't protest that way. No, we're going to do it this way. We're going to do it that way. And nothing that you're doing is affecting any change in my community, so I have an issue with it. Black and brown children are being killed and slaughtered in the streets of Chicago and Milwaukee. And we need actions that are going to bring forth immediate change. Simultaneously, there are things that can be done. And early on when I began speaking, I wanted to understand how have you engaged your lawmakers? And do you even understand what that process looks like? And so as a policy consultant and a community organizer, what I do is I work with grassroots organizations to help them identify the framework for decision making on how to reach that particular leverage that power toward action. That's what I'm concerned about. Having a child that sat in a classroom and was pushed to the side and labeled and saw how the structural racism in the educational system never gave him the opportunity to regain from his first contact with the justice system. As a mother, at that time, I was not even officially educated because I had dropped out of high school. I didn't go back to school until 30. And at 49, I'm completing my doctoral degree with Walton University in public administration. So, we talk about, thank you guys, these social ills and actions, right? And I'm giving you all this story to get to this place because systemic racism is going to need a systems approach. And you cannot allow the people who have oppressed you to have insight in on that. We have to stop wanting to be a part of something and create inroads for our own black people. That is the reason why, once we got out of slavery, we still wanted to have a piece of the pie. The impact of all of this made us more dependent upon a system than independent of a system, leaving us unable to come up with strategies to identify how to get out. Because of the psychological trauma. See, there is a series that I do called The Trauma of Being Black. And it comes from an intergenerational and transgenerational perspective of how each era of time structured itself to create an element of oppression that created a behavior, a response from us. So let's talk action. I see Portland tearing down statues, running in the streets, fighting each other, and there's racism within the protest. Yeah, we're gonna have to deal with that because y'all gotta go. But when we talk about actions, strategies must be employed. You guys who you're paying taxes regardless if you don't have a home or not, this is your interest. Meeting amongst each other and being able to identify what is our council doing? What laws are being passed in our community? Who is our leader? Do they have our best interests? Portland, it's time to pull it in. You've shown great strength in numbers and being loud. But you show no clue about how to get to where you need to go. This protesting across this country is a bunch of bull crap. I can't say what I want to say, but it's a bunch of bull crap because it has taken away from real change, what needs to happen. And these political ideas that are coming from politicians, both liberal and conservatives, I trust none. Because if the truth be told, it's the Democratic Party who enslaved us. That's documented. So when it comes to how we get to change, Change is not going to happen unless we as individuals come together and begin to build strategy, building power, voting them out, building power. 501c4s and are super PACs, you guys. You know that's how they fund campaigns, right? You guys have the numbers. You don't have the strategy. That's what you need. The American Civil Liberties Union, have you engaged in? Do you know what actions are on the table? See, they pass laws all the time in Congress. Who is the ACLU in the pocket of? You have to know this, Portland. So you want to help black lives, but you got to dig. You got to pull your sleeves back. I saw this system of oppression from a different lens as a black mother. Do you know what it feels like to go and finally pull yourself up by the bootstraps, get the courage to go back to school, sit in the classroom where you are 15 years older than the people that's around you, educate yourself, be inspired to become a social worker, put yourself in the spaces of oppression where your child is being oppressed to want to be a solution. Created, designed research in the Cook County Juvenile Temporary Detention Center to identify the nature and extent of treatment services offered to youth with co-occurring and coexisting mental health disorders because I was desperate as a mother. My son, through all of this, was in and out of juvenile justice systems. So I'm becoming a social worker. And just a year ago now, in Atlanta, going to Clark Atlanta, leaving Chicago, going to Clark Atlanta, and then studying there and becoming a mental health social worker, advanced level, working with the Department of Children and Family Services, working in the school system, but I can't say my own child. It hit me like a ton of bricks now as a special education teacher in a small group setting, where the ratio of students in the classroom are 8 black boys to 1 black girl. We have a problem. So my lens and what I saw in terms of how to get to where we need to go with change was policy. It's a problem when we have foster care systems that have 96% black children in foster care. It's a problem when across our country, the school suspension rate for black children is 98%. It's a problem. So you can beat the ground and yell and scream and throw rocks and argue and fight with the police all you want. Police brutality is not the only problem that the black community has. We have over 400 years of oppression. Our children are dying. There is trauma in being black. And to our black leaders on the front line, zoom in, wherever you are. So you have to change your model and your methods as well, because you haven't checked your trauma. Some of you all are selling out because you haven't checked your trauma. When you check your trauma, you are understanding that the lens in which I am advocating is pain. So I have to understand why I feel this way, so I don't go into this movement and infect it even the more. We have to be honest on the front line that the things that we have experienced is impacting our ability to get where we need to go. And the greatest example of that was the civil rights movement. We're going to talk about it because we have no format nor formula to move forward with. And so we have been spoon-fed by our media, by political operatives coming in our community. We're going to talk about these non-for-profit organizations that are getting all of this money and not servicing our children. So you want to talk about change, Portland, you got to pull in and you got to dig deep into the policy pipeline and get their asses out. I'm sorry. So I'm going to yield this mic right now because I wanted to be very clear about what social change looks like. You got to understand how policy decision making works. When you come into a place of grassroots organizing and you're going up a big system like this, you got to know strategy, you guys. But you guys got the numbers. Let's get the strategy. I yield.
Long story short, we have been trying to get Edie Mondane out of office for over a year. Even before we knew about the allegations that came out in this week's article, we knew that his misogynoir and his financial improprieties and his personal, mission that had nothing to do with the members or the people that were showing up for the meetings, that all had to change. So when the survivors contacted us because they found out about what we were trying to do, we helped them get their voices heard, and we are supporting them, and we will continue to do that. And I hope that you all vote in the local NAACP election in November 21st. You have to be a member by October 20th. We have scholarships if you can't afford your membership. If you are a young Black person, please join, because my greatest wish is that I cannot be an officer of the NAACP soon, because all the beautiful Black youth of our community have taken it over and made it their own.
Frank, what you said about the streamers, man, they ain't streaming speakers. They streaming bang, bang, pow, pow. Oh, let's run. So that's why you haven't been seeing that on the world stage. Because that's the for-profit part of the racism that I'm talking about.
Well, I wanted to, and I wanted to, like I thought when we were sitting here, I wanted to make sure I was clear when I said what I was saying. It's a specific group of white people that I see protesting at night, where I don't see no Black people.
I'm out there.
No, I'm not saying it's all, I said it's all, I don't understand that, like what you said, in a certain area, y'all might have somebody marching on the other side of town, but they be in a certain area.
That's where we gotta hold the streamers accountable too, because there's a lot of good stuff and there's a lot of organization and there's a lot of strategy going on, and it frustrates me hearing that, you know what I'm saying, because I don't know what the panelists have, information that the panelists have been given about Portland, you know what I'm saying, prior to this, but there's a lot of strategy and a lot of organization and a lot of meetings going on.
I think that, and you always have to remember each individual panelist have their own individual opinion. Mine is that y'all I see strategy. I just told him that. I said, I see strategy. It was a difference of opinion than that. I don't see organization. So for me, I think y'all have the numbers and y'all have strategy, but y'all are unorganized. Y'all have so many different groups doing so many different things.
A lot of the groups.
I know the groups work together too, but if y'all was organized and y'all had strategy and numbers, then we would see, it would be no problems at all. I'm just being honest.
So just to clarify, y'all, this is what this is not gonna turn into, okay? We gotta assess the problems. We have to assess the problems. Us. And he's got valid points, and he also is entitled to his opinion too. Y'all know me, I'm everywhere. And we have groups here that are working together. We do have structure, we do have strategy, but the very important point that you hit on is it's time for us to bring all of that together.
That's right.
So hopefully, Black leadership, if y'all listening, I had called out for a meeting a couple of weeks ago and 3 people showed up. So I appreciate you bringing that point up.
And this is no disrespect to the white people here. In Milwaukee, if white people protesting and marching by themselves and screaming by themselves, and that's all you see, we go straight down there as Black leaders and make sure that ain't going on. Ain't no disrespect, but ain't no white people just gonna be streaming white people in the Black Lives Matter movement in Milwaukee. So when you got that going on, that shows the lack of some type of organization going on.
And I don't know the demographics there, but we got a lot more black people, we got a lot more white people here in Portland.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but that's not what we said. I'm going off of what you said. You gotta hold the streamers accountable.
Yeah,
So if you
most
say that
definitely.
the streamers ain't streaming what y'all doing,
Most
that's part of
definitely.
the lack of coming together.
Most
If the streamers not streaming what y'all doing, that's part of what I'm
That's
talking
part of
about.
the
Y'all gotta
process.
Y'all gotta have the streamers stream what y'all talking about. They gotta stream the black people that's speaking and the black people that's marching and the black people that's actually bringing the message. Y'all gotta hold the streamers accountable by going to them and saying, y'all streaming the wrong stuff. If y'all feel like they're not streaming the right stuff. Cause all the world see is y'all what the streamers streaming. Like when we sitting at home, all we gonna see is what they show. And if y'all isolate from them, like, you know what, they'll never show black people, so I ain't even messing with the streamers. We just gonna continue to do what we do. Then nobody sees what y'all doing. You gotta have a good relation with y'all streamers, cause they travel too. Portland streamers travel more than any other streamers I've been seeing, to be completely honest. So y'all actually have a great opportunity with them because they travel from city to city to city to city showing what's going on.
When I talk about strategy, my role is a social justice advocate and a policy consultant. It's not rooted in protesting. See, there are direct actions. Protesting is one of them. So when I talk about strategy, I'm talking about other actions. Protesting is one. And I said that seems to be the only direct action that is happening in Portland. That seems to be. Hold on now. Because when I did the research and in speaking to some of the leadership, like and watching some of the Zoom meetings with the commissioner and those things that are happening.
They're not even having black leaders in that meeting.
I see opportunity where the numbers that you all are bringing can really focus on certain areas. Okay, I'm gonna say it that way. I see missed opportunities. That's what I'm talking about with strategy. So protesting is good, right? I support that. But my position as a policy consultant is to help community and organizations leverage their power to get the reform that they want through their local government.
My name is Mars. I'm a local activist. I'm an independent activist. I was a part of an organization before becoming an independent as well. And I want to touch up on a couple of things that I heard. In order to create change, people have to be willing to listen when being educated and when a black person is speaking in general. And that's a big problem we had here. Even when we had numbers, people would show up to protest and not know why. And the reason why the numbers have dwindled, obviously, is because white people lost interest. But the people who do show up are listening. The community here, we've created a safe space in multiple areas in Portland where people will show up all times of the day and they know they're going to be fed. They know they're going to be protected. They know they're going to have those community resources that they don't need to apply for. Because that's the biggest problem, right? You need a resource, but you need to apply for it and then wait for it. We've ended that. You need to be fed, you know exactly where to go. You need protection, you know exactly where to go. But the media doesn't cover that. And even when we were a part of the organization and even as independents, just a couple of days ago for George Floyd's birthday, we held a candlelight vigil. And you don't see that on the media because the media doesn't come. And if they do come, they see the numbers and they go, not coming. So it's hard from an outside perspective to see what's happening in the city when you're only, looking at it through media, exactly. Because media is focused towards people who don't have cable, who don't have internet, And so when you just look at the news, you don't see what's actually happening in the city, so, yeah.
Real quick. Thank you everybody for coming out. Everybody on the panel especially, thank you for spending your time and coming out this way. I think it's really important to keep in mind that it's very difficult. I tell everybody, I told my mom this in Virginia. It's almost impossible to understand what's happening here in Portland from the news. And that's not our fault. What's happening here, I hear a lot of people saying that, on this panel that they're not sure why we're here. And part of that could be the panel that you're on. The reason that we're here is to defund the police. That's what these protests here in Portland are about. It may not be the same across everywhere else, but that's what we're doing here. We're here to defund the police. We're not here to look for equality for black people in a 6% state. That's not realistic. That's not what we're in the streets for. That's what we want, but that's not what we're in the streets for. We're in the streets for a tangible goal. You protest for a tangible. You don't just protest because you're mad. That's some shit, right? But the revolution is like, yo, black lives have to matter, organizational or not, right? But we talked for a long time about, what is structural racism. And structural racism is capitalism. Whether you like that shit or not, structural racism is capitalism. It's how they codify racism. Capitalism is racism codified. It's how you take the things from a person, from a people, and you extract that means and you give it to one person or a smaller group on the other side. There's no way you can do capitalism and be fair. Okay? So when we talk about having a piece of the pie, what pie? The part of the structural racism pie? Are we trying to change our position on the scale? Or are we trying to change the system? So whenever we talk about solutions that involve, we need more education so we can get people to build nonprofits and have all this shit, that's really cool, right? But the problem is all you're doing is becoming the next person. That's Animal Farm. You've all read Animal Farm. Right? So I'm saying, that's us becoming our masters. That's not what we're trying to do. And how you start is extremely important in how you finish. This is the start. So as we have these conversations and talk about these things, I just want people to keep in mind that I know from the outside it looks like, we are working with the streamers aren't showing the cool shit. The fact is, the streamers aren't showing the cool shit because we don't want to go to jail. You feel me? So the streamers are showing the cops because our goal is we don't talk to the cops, we don't film our activists, we film the cops. That's our whole point. Show the cops doing bad shit. Don't show the activists doing shit. We're not trying to get famous. So it bothers me when I hear, I'm not sure what you guys are here for. I have been in the New York Times, I have been in the New Yorker, I have been in the New Yorker Radio, I have been on NPR, I have been on OPB, I have been in the Wall Street Journal, I have been in the LA Times, I have been in the Standard Times, and I have been in the fucking Washington Post. And you know what we asking for? I said the same shit every single time. I'm here to run the police. I say every fucking time we talk. Everybody knows that shit, right? Right? So when people come here from out of town, and I appreciate that shit, because we have to do more. I focus here. I didn't go to DC. I don't have time for that shit. I'm trying to run the police here. So when people come here and say, I'm not sure what's going on, these are suggestions, before you can give us suggestions, you have to know what we want. I'm also a consultant. And before I go into a place and start giving advice, I ask what the hell y'all doing? And I'm waiting for an answer. Because I can't tell you how to get there. I can't tell you how my nonprofit can help you if I don't know what you want. Right? I can't tell you how to operate your streamers or if you have organization or not unless I actually know what you actually have. Because I know people, I never talk to you. Ever. But I see you every day. And one time she had a problem, I was there in a heartbeat. And then I see her. I got a problem, she been in a heartbeat. It don't matter. I see bars all the fucking time. Like, it's nothing. I see cat all the time. Black and white doesn't really matter, honestly, here in Portland. Because what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get rid of our police. Not just because, fuck the police, not just because all ACAB, which is great, all cops are bad. But the reason we're doing that is because what can black people take out of this? So many times we have these movements. I've been protesting since 2001. We've had these movements, right? And it's like, yeah, we generate all this stuff, we get all this stuff, these resources, mutual aid stuff pop up, nonprofits pop up, and then it's over. And we broke again. Right? And I'm not mad that I'm broke. I'm not mad because they're rich. I'm mad because I'm broke. That's the difference. I'm not mad because they're rich. I'm mad because I'm broke. Now I'm not broke no more. I didn't work hella hard in this capitalist system. Right? So now I'm good. So I don't want none of y'all to be broke. That's just bullshit. You feel me? So our game plan here is to, because even if we get this money, Oregon Care already said we can have $62 million for our black community. Don't tell us we ain't doing shit. We got $62 million, cut up $50 million off the budget, got the cops out of the school, got the cops off the TriMate, got the cops stop taking our remake. You can work it. How are you gonna do it? You can work it. How many cities actually defunded their police? Portland. Period. So instead of people coming here to tell us what to do, y'all should be hiring us to come out and tell y'all what to do. Because we got this shit down. And we're now, shit's hard now. But we are transitioning into the phase that this young lady is talking about. We are doing that work. We are indeed. I talked to Ron White yesterday. I talked to Kate Brown a couple months ago. I talk to Ted Wheeler all the time. Like, let's not pretend we don't know what's going on here. Everyone doesn't know what's going on everywhere. But that's because everyone's not tapping in. But also because everyone thinks they should be tapping in around themselves. So tapping with others, not just tapping with yourself.
And so, yeah, just to elaborate on that, so Black Lives Matter is not just protests at night. We are involved right now, the group that I'm with, in stopping the government from physically removing a family from a home in the middle of this pandemic. Those of y'all that know about the Red House, y'all know how we do it. And we will move on from there to the next family, and the next family, and the next family, and the next family. So that's how community looks out for community. And just to tap on what Max was talking about, I started with Rodney King. And Rodney King was a perfect example of how you started that. Just a bunch of anger, no nothing. And I can tell you what the system does. And unfortunately, I've been proven wrong every day of the 30 plus years that I've been involved in community. I don't have titles, degrees, or nothing, but I worked in most soup kitchens, most houseless shelters. That's what I do. But definitely, so the system is gonna do just like what Frank said too, to even elaborate on that. They just gonna sit back and wait. That's it. They don't have to do anything. They gonna watch us come together. And so just to give you guys an idea for all the white people in the room, black people have never had an opportunity to truly know what the fucking family structure is. We've never had that opportunity. From day one that we've touched on this soil, my brother, my dad can be taken in a moment and shipped down the road somewhere, and I never see him again. So within the black community, we are working on that family structure, and we will get that down. But until then, yes, there will be different groups. There will be different ideologies and all of that, even within the black community. And all that's great, like Todd said. Let's just all agree to meet together at the end and have a fucking party. Everybody concentrate on what you're doing, and let's get it done. And that's just it. And the community that we serve is also the community that we live in. And to give you guys an example of how they do black and brown communities, they don't put any stores in the community. They don't put any kind of access to any kind of healthcare, social services within the community. So guess what? You gotta go down to the mall and give your money to Mr. Nordstrom. That takes directly from the community. So the community has no chance. A community is a self-sustained entity, stores, everything. You don't have to go outside of your community for anything. If you're living in a true community, they will not allow us to do that, but it's not up to them, it's up to us. That's why we go to places like Red House. People in need, we step up. We take care of each other. And so for the people that are from out of town, which technically maybe I could be considered, I don't know, I live here. But I'm not born here, none of that stuff. I'm here now, I'm not going anywhere. You guys will continue to see me as you have been. There is structure here, there is organization, and it's coming together.
When he talked about the organization, we talked about the structure, and we talked about policy change and action. So with Portland being is a 74% white, 5% black, let's talk about some numbers and what the collective acts are, right? For the collective, for the 5% in Portland, what are your acts? What are your demands that are on the table that are clear throughout the community that this is what it is that you are asking to be done?
We want to fire violent officers and charge them with crimes, and we want to defund the police.
What was the first part?
Fire violent officers and charge them with crimes.
Okay, so fire, that's for Portland, right?
Yeah.
That's for Portland specifically only.
Very specifically, that's because
Very specific, okay, okay.
around for years, 5 years now.
5 years, okay. So, and you do have police unions, right?
Yes.
Okay, so.
The oldest one.
Hold on.
The oldest police union in the nation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you got your police unions, all right. So we're gonna defund the police, fire all the bad cops, right?
Charge them with crimes.
And charge them with crimes, right? And so what does that do for the 5% of blacks? And what does that do for the school systems in the minority communities? Is that funding going to allocate that funding? Okay, I'm getting it. Hold on, I'm gonna get back to you. So I see, because I want Portland to know that I didn't come in here blind. I did my research. And I came in here not to tell you what to do because consultants don't. But in the passion of the moment, when we're talking about structural racism and all of that, and in the lens in which I live, I brought that energy in this room and being authentic in this space because I love black people, okay? And so with that, I want Portland to know that coming across the globe here, I did not take this lightly at all. So when I say, don't take it as if, you know, and see with us, you know, so white people, we have a fireside chat now. This is black folk, y'all know, we about to be real, this auntie speaking. You know, we have to understand that we have to have a listening ear. We have to train our ears now to listen to each other in love, right? And because they use the Willie Lynch syndrome in everything that we do when they see us come together to divide us. So I want to commend the brothers that's in this room that's been standing on the front line. I don't know if he was here first when I first opened up. I definitely gave mad love to Portland because I said y'all had the heart and y'all doing the thing. Y'all were protesting dry hot dog. I ain't mad at you. But what I offer in this space to Portland, you guys, and what I saw honestly is opportunity. And when you have, and I wasn't gonna go there, but I'm gonna go there. When you have an administration that called out this, that's what really gave me the focus on Portland. When you have the current administration that called out Portland the way they did, as far as I'm concerned with the protesting between the black and the white, whether you're Republican or Democrat, this is a perfect storm to win. And that was my biggest interest. That was my biggest interest. Like, how does Portland get to be the centerfold of attention from the White House? Right? And then, as far as I'm concerned, you got the Republicans and the Democrats, you got the black and the whites, but the White House said, bump y'all. So y'all got the power in Portland to do whatever you like. You can do whatever you like, okay? So with my family that's in this room, Samantha is here to love on you, not to point fingers at you. My experience from Cabrini Green and growing up, my experience from raising black boys, my experiences from working in institutions that don't even respect the hustle, and this black woman getting to where she got, and I'm still oppressed, even in a corporate role. So what can Vision Center of Hope do for Portland? Vision Center of Hope is a nationally registered organization. It's just been birthed. It's the perfect storm to get involved and create the model that Portland needs. And I will offer that to you all today. Having the opportunity to have a nationally registered organization, my vision was to go to the urban communities and my communities and with the service model in addressing those ills, those social ills, because my background in mental health and trauma, having a trauma-informed understanding about how we do this work, even with us. I had that revelation when I had a breakdown in the classroom a year ago. When you're gone through what you've gone through and you did what you did, and the reality of it was that you have not really affected change in your own child's life. So I had to begin to look at my own trauma as a mother. I'm now 20 years in the game. And I'm standing in a classroom with black boys, and I done broke down because everything that I did to be better was discredited as nothing. And my why is still where? In jail. So the reality of this systemic system, the reality of this, my brother back there, is that we are better together than we are apart. And so the message to Portland is that Samantha cares about Portland. And I want Portland to care about that I care about you. Because in our black family, we need to learn how to not just love, but listen. Listen and lead with our love. And so I want to just let you guys come up with some more questions if you have any. Let's talk about this a little bit more before we close out. I'm flying out of here tomorrow. I've been enjoying myself here with you guys, and I just really want to see Portland rise. When I looked at those numbers, y'all, I had some concerns. I got some concerns about your mayor and how he moved in the city. I got some concerns. You got people here in the pandemic who did not receive their unemployment benefits, but you got a public official that's under scandal. Like, Portland, I'm concerned.
You asked about what is defunding the police and firing those cops doing for the black community, and just to answer that, it does a shit ton for the black community. Like a shit ton because for one, defunding the police and reallocating those funds in the systems. Yes, Portland might not have them like everywhere else where they have like 20 demands that they want met. Like saying we want this, we want to put the money in this place. But Portland has plans what to do with that money when they defund the police and put it into school programs, and put it into community programs, and put it into other programs. So it's like their demands are just about, or not just to defund the police, but it's way deeper than that. So, but we have to have the money to do it though. We can't do it. No, we can't have a list of demands saying that we want to help the school systems, we want to help the prison system and help all these systems with no fucking money. So we gotta defund the police before we have these plans on taking out all these other systems.
There's something we were saying from the very beginning of the protest, which is an acronym called DRIP. I don't know if you guys remember that. Yeah. But it's DRIP. It's defund, reinvest, and protect. So we defund the police. We reinvest that money into the community, into housing, into drug treatment, and into mental health, and then we protect our most vulnerable citizens. And that's one thing. If we're gonna be getting out our message, I really put easy acronyms: DRIP: defund, reinvest, and protect.
So I'm just saying, like, when you got people that just only want to march and chant and like just want to march, that's what they came out to do. They need to be separated from the people that want to throw bricks, that want to bust windows, that want to burn stuff down. I'm not saying either is wrong. I'm just saying give me a choice to let me know what the hell I'm signing up for, okay?
The only complication with that is just that we don't have any ability to control other people's actions. So like when we do have peaceful protests, which we've accomplished, but when we do have those peaceful protests, there's always that one protester. It only takes one protester to like mess something up.
Right. So, for me, it was just more clarification of me not really telling y'all that I'm coming here to tell y'all what to do. Because, go ahead.
So, in response to that, as I was saying, we've had peaceful protesters.
Yeah.
Infiltrators are a big thing that have been happening since Black Panther days, right?
Yeah.
So infiltrators are a big problem. In one instance, with the 100 Days, 100 Nights, we had gone out to march, and there were several infiltrators there who obviously are not with us. And so that is out of our control. And so there have been countless times, even at the Justice Center, where it's been peaceful and out of nowhere, you're standing on the road instead of the sidewalk, and it's declared a riot.
Right.
And so the definition of with your definition, that's absolutely correct, right? To not break stuff, but here, the police have used almost any reason to declare anything as a riot, even if it's peaceful. So dancing, like anything has been, and that's
then it's determined. Like a lot of times y'all gonna get arrested for things that they never gonna be able to really charge y'all with. But y'all gonna go to court. They gonna have to drop the charges. Y'all gonna beat it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that hasn't been the case though, because we've had federal agents here.
Yeah, I mean, but who has got 5 years for dancing in the street?
There's been several. There was I don't.
They got like 5 years, like went to court already and got their charge.
I don't want to get into like.
I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean?
There have been.
I'm sure, like, I got stabbed by the police. I got stabbed right here by the police. I got stabbed in my knuckles. They gave me 2 felony resisting arrests while, you know what I'm saying, causing 2 felony causing bodily harm to officers while resisting arrest. Because they body slammed me and stabbed me underneath the pile. But that's what I got charged with. I went to jail. I got charged with it in May.
So does that make it right though?
I just said I made it right with the charge. I got lawyers and my charges got dropped because they can't push that. They're not going to get me to go to jail on video of me getting body slammed and not doing nothing. They're going to charge you with all kinds of stuff to try to stop you from protesting at that moment, to try to disrupt you, what you're doing at that moment. But there's no way you should be pleading guilty to none of that stuff and taking charges and stuff like that. I'm just telling y'all.
That's where this.
Because what I'm saying is, I don't know how y'all do justice here. It would be amazing that y'all doing justice here like that in Portland. But I don't know nowhere in the country where you're getting federal charges and you going to court in 2 months and going to jail for those federal charges without taking a plea.
I have the mic in my hand, so.
But it wasn't even I wasn't trying to debate all of the. Go ahead.
I'm not trying to be.
No, sorry. I was speaking. Go ahead though.
Okay. In that case, for one instance, if you're taken by a federal agent, whether it's legally or illegally, and you're told to go to court the next day, you can't make it to court. Now there's a warrant out for your arrest. Now you can't get a job. That's a part of the system. So to be able to be like, well, you know, it gets dropped and nothing happened, the reality is that's not what's happening.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not even here to debate that. That wasn't even the point of what I was saying. What I was talking about was me not telling y'all how to protest. So if I'm saying that I'm not gonna come here and tell y'all how to protest, of course the police gonna arrest you for all kinds of things. I'm not the fucking police. I can't be like, hey, Mr. Officer, drop them charges. What do you want me to do about them arresting you for dancing in the street? What do you want my answer to be? Like, honestly, if you go dance in the street and the police come up, I'm not Jesus Christ. I can't just be like, police, let all the Portlanders go. You get what I'm saying? I'm being real with you. So some of the stuff that you asking me, I'm not your enemy, I'm your friend. So when you talk about them arresting y'all for dancing in the street, all I can tell you is don't go in there pleading guilty, fight your case, go to court so you don't have a warrant. You know what I mean? Try to talk to you. I missed court in Warsaw, Indiana. I wrote them a letter for missing court, and they took my warrant away. The same warrant you're talking about, I was literally, when I got arrested in Warsaw on the way to DC, the 28th was the day I was supposed to be in court. I didn't go to court. They gave me a charge. I wrote the judge. They took the warrant away and they gave me a new court date. What I'm saying is, I don't think the system worked. I don't think the court system worked. I don't believe that the system have all the answers. But for me, when we talk about organization, we talk about things like, I was really going to talk about what the young man talked about. When you talk about defunding the police, everybody talking about defunding the police. I don't know if y'all don't know that. You know what I mean? The stuff that you did, getting the police out of schools, all the stuff that you named, everybody's done that. I don't know if y'all don't know that. Just like we didn't know y'all did that in Portland. It's a lot of cities that have done a lot of those things. Trust me, I've been there and they say the same thing. And when you look it up, they have got the police out of their school system. They have done a lot of the things that you named. I'm being honest. You might not know about that, but just like when I got here to Portland, a lot of us might, just like he felt like we didn't know about that, I did know that they did a lot of things in Portland. But when we talk about organizing, we're talking about like the fact that the National Guard can outnumber y'all at any time. And we got activists across the country that believe in what y'all doing, that'll fly out here on y'all behalf, that don't know who the black activists to communicate with are. If y'all go to jail, I don't know who to communicate with that's the black activists out here to come and fly in and help y'all. I don't know. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about organizing. I ain't talking about telling you how to run stuff. I'm talking about, do you have a national platform that you connected with across the country where you have Portland, Atlanta, Chicago, Milwaukee, where we all talking to, where we all talking to each other. If y'all do, the rest of the country don't. Right. We should be learning from each other, not just Portland feel like we should learn from them. We should all be learning from each other. Right. No, I didn't say what y'all not doing. I said what I see on the streams. We talk about what we see on the streams. Yeah. Before I'm gonna let you go ahead, but I'm saying this is what we don't watch the news. We watch the streams. We watch what y'all broadcast as people. I want y'all to understand that we're not watching the news. We're watching what y'all broadcast as people. So if this is what y'all broadcasting as people, this is what the world sees. It ain't about saying, are y'all doing something different? Because y'all could be doing a million things different. But we're giving y'all a perspective of what the world sees from y'all live broadcast streaming on the streets. But we can't. There's people across the country that can't ask the organizers. They're not here. And those are the, listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. The reason it's important for y'all to control the streams is because everybody not gonna be able to have that conversation with y'all to see what y'all doing. The reason I'm streaming now is so that people can hear y'all say that y'all defunding the police. So people can hear all the stuff that y'all saying that y'all doing. That's why I'm streaming now. But I don't see a lot of the black people in this room streaming. I'm being honest. And I ain't being disrespectful, I'm just saying, if y'all not telling y'all own story, and we seeing the story from the streamers in Portland, how can you be upset or bothered by the fact that we telling y'all what we see, what's going on? That's what we want to know. How do we get y'all to show us as the world what's going on in Portland?
Hey, one of the black streamers is streaming right now, and I'm sharing his to my platform.
I agree with you. But what I'm saying is, what do we do to show the world what y'all talking about?
As a black organizer,
it will be streamed. They're not televising it, they're streaming it.
Hey, as a black organizer,
that's not what that, when they say the revolution won't be televised, that means that Fox and the white supremacist organization won't support us.
There are so many ways that the system is trying to dismantle the work that we're doing. They come to jail support, they take our stuff, they slash our tires, they take us from our homes, there are so many ways. If you're a white person in Portland and you can't go out and be on the front lines, that's fine, but there are 100 different ways that you can support the work that we're doing. Show up at jail support, show up with snacks, show up with water, help the houseless people, help the houseless people in our community. So we're doing all of that. I see all of you. You may not know me because I'm generally behind the scenes, but I see all of you and I know your hearts, and I want you to know that I see you working together. I see you doing a better job of working together. I think we're going to keep doing that. Thank you, Juice, for doing that. We are doing a great job, and we're going to keep doing better. And we're going to defund the police, and we're going to also be proud of our victories, and we're going to build on them.
So first thing I see is that communication is really hard, and part of speech is encoding a message, and then for the person who's listening to decode that message. But we don't always get a choice on how that message is decoded. So sometimes we have to take a step back and reflect on, okay, was my message encoded in a way that could be decoded by that person? Because we do talk these different languages. Even though we all speak English, those things within our language come off differently within tone, context, and all of these other minuscule things that we aren't necessarily aware of. So I think we're all targeting all these different things that need to be addressed, and then it just takes a matter of taking a step back and getting out of ourselves to listen. And I think that we all have these beautiful ideas that will help this movement move forward. And I'm Native Hawaiian. What they want, overall, this government, what is set up right now, wants us divided like this. They want us yelling at each other. They want us finding what makes us different. And it scares them when we find out what brings us together. Like the tear gas comment, that is some camaraderie. Yeah. They don't want us to have camaraderie. They don't want us to take our different privileges that we have as white and lighter skinned, brown and black people to share those things freely. Like some of us have the advantage of having education. And sharing that kind of knowledge freely is gonna fuck them up. Let's fuck them up. And having the space for those things to be shared, like through streaming, shows not just like those people at home, but shows people in other cities that something is doable and there is a different solution to the same problem that maybe we did not think of. And that is part of the wonderful thing of having community, is that we have all of these individuals that have wonderful, great ideas and knowledge that we can all take advantage of. And it just is a matter of letting those voices come out and letting like certain things come as they will and learning from our experiences and making mistakes and being okay to be like, yeah, I fucked up, but how do we move forward? And not focusing on how we fucked up, but like how do we move forward? And I was gonna ask on like, is there a benefit that we see in utilizing like the master's tools, which is media, and how they have used it against us, and taking that same hammer, but using it in a different way to nail down that same nail. You don't always have to use the head of the hammer to nail down a nail. You can use the side of it and get that nail down. You can use the butt end of a hammer to get that nail where you need it to go. And I love to quote Audre Lorde on we can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools, but how much of that is us putting, like reutilizing the tools that we have and using our knowledge and our power to spin that around for our own thing and our own narrative, like they've used it against us. And I'd like to hear like if anybody has any comment on that for like community building.
If anybody wants to like add into that, or like things that like maybe we can like tools that are seen that we can use for like to move forward.
So when you talk about tools to move forward, let me understand when you said the statement you made about, or the parable you used about taking down the master's house but not using the master's tools. And then your question is how do we build toward change and using the tools that we use to oppress us against the oppressor? Is that what you were saying?
Like, is that something that's doable? And like, especially as a community organizer, like, is that doable? What have you seen from your experiences, like within the education system, within like interacting with the community, especially like the youth, and in terms of like moving forward and how those things could be twisted around to benefit us?
Well, in my experience, and so in Atlanta, the recent action that I was a part of, we had a school system that had lead-based water, elementary school system. The DeKalb County school system had lead water. You got in Fulton County, which is one of the largest counties in the state, where Atlanta Public Schools, and the regentrification in Atlanta is taking place now. So when we get into this work, you got to understand that we're already years behind, because the community development and structure plans that they have when you start moving in your communities, they have those development meetings. They're already planning on moving you out. And so when you talk about using their tools, they already have one in over us. And one of the things about slavery that broke the economy for those particular white oppressors was not using their tools, but taking it away. Right? So we don't want to take anything that was used to harm us to take back to harm them. But if we dismantle and take away their tools, then what do they have left to work with? Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I wanted to also see how streaming fell into that. Just because we stream and I try to hold interviews and addressing different places within the system that oppress and how it oppresses, because a lot of people watching the streams do not understand what is happening and how these systems actually affect Black, brown, and indigenous people. So it's how does streaming can we how do you see streaming the Booth and benefit from that and see other communities?
I think, like I said, for me personally, I can understand and see where, like I said, there's a different, I don't knock anything that happened before. As far as the way they try to do stuff, if I talk about organization, it doesn't mean I understand the organizations are organized, the organizations, they have organizations that literally do different things and they all come together for the greater cause. That's what I see.
And do they have
but I also see, like you said, if you have people that don't want to be streamed, and you have streamers that want to stream, then that's what happens. You're going to get them streaming stuff that we don't see what's going on because y'all don't want to be streamed. So that makes more sense. I believe the streamers have a place, but it's all compared to CO City. You have to have people in Portland. These individuals have to believe that your story is important and the revolution should be told through streaming. If they believe it shouldn't be told through streaming, you're going to have people that believe it should be told through streaming stuff that people don't understand, and you're going to have the stuff that people look at and find and learn from never be streamed. And all I try to say is that the stuff that y'all doing that's effective, people can learn from that if they saw how y'all did it. You know what I mean? The police are organized across the goddamn country. They're not organized only in a small municipality. When something happens, the National Guard coming, all of them coming, you know what I'm saying? And that's how we gotta be. We gotta know what's effective in the different tricks and things that we doing in other cities and other communities so that we can effectively get change. You know what I mean? We gotta know. That's the only way we're gonna win this. I know that, I understand it's about what's going on in Portland, but when I hear y'all say George Floyd, that didn't happen in Portland. When I hear y'all say Breonna Taylor, that didn't happen in Portland. That's a national thing. So now y'all represent a national cause, and y'all speaking on people that's fighting for it more than what Portland's fighting for. So then you gotta care about what the people across this country that's fighting for the same thing when they hear y'all say George Floyd had to say, or the same thing when they hear y'all say Breonna Taylor. Because we want to be on the same page. We don't want Portland to be like, oh yeah, we fight for George Floyd, but not that stuff they trying to demand for George Floyd. We got our own demands that they got, you know what I'm saying? So when it comes to national stuff, we do got to be on the same page. But at a local level, we got to help y'all accomplish what y'all said locally. Also, like you said, y'all got the problem with y'all mayor. That need to be national news, that the scandal that's going on with y'all mayor. That person need to be, all of y'all issues, we should be able to help y'all with. If y'all got to, say somebody got killed in Portland right now, the media not gonna tell, I think it was him and her. The media not gonna tell the story about who got shot. But y'all will. And if we all connected, we as activists around the country gonna tell the story with y'all like, yo, this is what happened in Portland. And then after all the social media outpouring happened, like with Jacob Blake, then all of a sudden the media gotta pick it up. It gotta be something that picked up. But we can't come in. I walked across the country and heard about people I never heard about in every city. In every city. Jamarion Robinson in Atlanta got shot 76 times by the police. 110 bullets. They shot 110 bullets at him. You all know who Joseph Mensa is? He killed 3 people in Milwaukee. Alvin Cole, you know what I mean? He killed Jay Anderson and Antonio Gonzalez in 5 years and he a black guy. But he killed 3 people in 5 years. Nobody know about that. When I go through these other cities, people don't know what's going on. But if we connect with activists across the country, we can tell each other stories about what's going on in that city. When y'all march for that person in y'all city, we all across the country can march that day. On the day that they died for your city, we all across the country can spread that message, and that applies more pressure on the local government, on the National Guard that's coming in. That's what we need to do. It ain't about telling y'all how to do nothing or arguing with y'all on the way that y'all protest. It's really about how can we aid y'all in what y'all doing? How can we show the world what the problem is here? How can we show the world how y'all are successful here? How can we show the world all the different ways that we can help each other and build this across the nation, that we got a plan finally? We ain't gonna have another shot like this. I know you said it's been other ones, but not like this, bro. I wanted to clarify that too earlier. When you said it ain't been, I'm 40 years old, I'm 39. It ain't been nothing like this, bro, growing up. I couldn't do this at 20. It ain't been nothing like this, bro. All the other marches, they died down. We got people marching until somebody else get killed now. People ain't gonna stop marching, bro. This is it. People fired up now. It ain't no dying down. It ain't none of that. Every time something happened before in this country, it just kind of died down before the next person got murdered. Before that, it'll die down. About a month worth of march. People everywhere across the country, everybody over 100 days in 20 different cities. People ain't trying to give up unless y'all. I know that y'all had the fire, and I don't know if that kind of canceled y'all from being able to protest when the fire came through. Okay, exactly. Because I'm gonna tell you, I was trying to come down here then. And they were telling me not to come because y'all wasn't going to be out there like y'all normally be. I was like, fuck that, I want to be out there in the harsh conditions. I literally wanted to come, but I want to be out there in the harsh conditions. When the white supremacist Proud Boys came, I want us to come out here that day, you see what I'm saying? So when these things happening, we need to be able to fly in, we need to be able to organize, we need to be able to just be on the same page. We got to put our differences to the side and fight for the same thing.
Yeah, Frank, what I would say to, like, on top of what you're saying is take the time that you're down here to, like, especially the streamers and the media that are in this room, take your time to reach out to us and help us and connect you to get to the people that don't understand what's going on around the world, because there's some streamers that are more focused on just like what's happening locally. There's also streamers like myself and other people that have been traveling around the U.S. trying to get like a broader view of the message, and we ourselves have different like restream platforms and stuff that broadcast us to other cities, other states. Half of the people that watch, I know a lot of us are from different countries and stuff, and they are with us until we go there, until we get in our car and drive home at the end of the day. So it sounds like, you know, the bubble of whatever streamers you're comparing and saying that we're just trying to show the action or whatever, it sounds like the bubble of what you're watching is a little small. So while you're here for this week, take your time to reach out to, like I said, the people that are in this room, the people if you go to the protest tonight, because we'll give you our information, and we will gladly love to have you give our information to other people that want to see what's going on, because there's people here every single night that have been out here every single night trying to show what's going on locally and like globally and everything else. So just come around and talk to us, and we'll help you out.
I wanted to connect with the black people here. I know the white people that came to Washington D.C., but the first thing I said was I want to connect and see what the black people are truly doing. And like I understand that y'all seen me in D.C., but I need to know what y'all doing, because that's what matters to me and the people that's showing. I want to connect with individuals that's showing that. But like I said, the positive stuff, the stuff that y'all are doing correctly. I know y'all do stuff correctly.
You said people weren't getting speeches and stuff. I know you check my streams. My streams are full of speeches.
Yeah, I do too. But I was gonna say that, like, when I'm, like, events like this that are important to me, I film these too, but I have like 20 viewers. And then when I'm like at a protest where the cops are throwing shit at the protesters, and I have like 300 viewers. And I tell them too, I'm like, if you're just here for a riot horn, then like go out there. Like, I don't want to be, you know, this look into the protest for that. Like, come and watch the speeches too.
That's what we in those individuals out, telling people don't watch their stream, don't watch it.
You're not pushing kids around. I think putting together streamers
But then also another issue that we have is the majority of us are young adults. Like I'm 19. Most of the people that we work with, the other organizations, were really young. And so like when we do go into meetings and we do have planning committees and just organizing like events, we do not have live streamers there. And so to get that across like nationwide, it's really hard to get that across because we don't have live streamers there. And we don't have live streamers just following us around. I mean, we've done, like Teal and I, we've done 1,000 interviews with like, you know, big named people like CNN, New York Times, but but they don't cover what happens like at the meetings when we are planning for the march, because so much goes into that. And as young adults, I think it's like really impressive, and it's definitely something that gets undermined, is how much work goes into planning these like events, like getting motorcade on board and getting, you know, the medics on board and having a route. You need city permits, you need all these different things that people don't even understand. And it's like, as young adults, it's impressive what we're doing, but that is the type of stuff that media doesn't cover. And it's also that type of stuff that we don't really have media cover because it is a personal thing.
And I think y'all do good about not having to cover that. I think that y'all shouldn't stream like y'all meetings and y'all organizational stuff. That's y'all doing that right now, and I commend y'all to young people, because it's very difficult, like you said. Some stuff y'all don't know. People that's like getting the next together, getting all those individuals together. That type of stuff should be figuring out a way for that to just come together automatically, no matter who's getting the mark, whether they're young or whoever is in the mark. We as people should be coming together to make sure, especially young people, 19 and 20, that decided that they don't want to follow rappers or effective musicians or basketball players. They want to be community activists. They want to come together. We got to make sure that we support everything that you're trying to accomplish and what y'all talking about.
Yeah, it's just hard to get that nationwide when it's only just live streaming.
We don't tell the truth here. That's what we know. Where I can tell y'all personally that I myself have had to repeatedly tell live streamers to actually stream a black videos that are speaking. Hold on, let me finish, please. I can tell you in the last month or so, we've gone through this no streaming thing. I've been here for a while, and I personally have had to tell live streamers, why can't y'all actually film the speaker? We standing up in the Justice Center, something happened around the corner, they gone. I know y'all seen that.
Yeah.
So we gonna keep it real here. We just started stopping these live streams. Finally, I've been streaming that forever, because they haven't been showing the fucking black speakers. So let's keep it real. We just stopped that here. And even in the midst of stopping that, they're still posting shit.
They still
So let's keep it real. That's all I have.
Evan has something to say.
As a black streamer, from day one, I hear all the things that people are saying. Some of you are from Portland, some of you are not. I think all around the board that people need to assess the language that they use when they describe how they feel versus how they're discussing facts. Because we get confused about, I feel this, and I think this, and this is. And it's very important for people who aren't automatically bridged together from region or experience or whatever to really analyze how and what they're trying to communicate. Because I'm sitting here listening to you guys, and I'm hearing everything, and people are missing parts of it because of innocent changes in how they speak. Some of us have been streaming speeches and daytime events, and some of us, if you're watching black streamers, have been saying from day one that direct action is only a part of the movement, and that we need to film more daytime stuff. And those of us who have been to the House, who have been to the children's or the kids' protests, the female women's march, I'm not going to plug me because it's not about me, but we do it. And if you go and look for us and associate with us and network with us, those of us who do know things, we approach things cautiously because there is an anti-streamer sentiment for the percentage of people who are doing it, in most of our opinions, incorrectly or to detriment to people's safety. People don't like a lot of the streams that don't show action because they're into that, because society has programmed you that that's the only thing you pay attention to. You have a short attention span theater going on constantly. And I'm going to task every single person here to find other streamers, other BIPOC people and associate with them. I'll tell you the whitest streamer, this is kind of funny, the whitest streamer I know is out there next to me almost every night that I'm out there. She's sitting in the back row, and she takes the time and the courtesy to stream conscientiously. And it happens. There are examples of the good and the bad, and I think we just need to check our language when we talk about it, because all-encompassing terms rub people the wrong way. And that's all I gotta say about that.
So we're going to be ending pretty soon, but I know you've had a question that you wanted to ask, so go for it.
I actually didn't have a question. I just wanted to say I see each and every person here. I hear you. I see you. I love you. You guys are doing an awesome fucking job. I also want you guys to know you're all superstars. Okay? Each and every one of you.
The person that's speaking is also a superstar, so please don't let her.
I also want to let you guys know we're not allies. We're accomplices. We're in this shit together. We ride or die. Okay? You understand that? We ride or die. This is not ally bullshit. Ally switch. Okay? Yeah. Okay? Okay. Okay, everyone, hi. I just wanted to speak real quick on a couple of things that Frank was asking about, what we have had change here in Portland when we have been asking for defunding the police. We asked for initially $50 million to be defunded from the police. We got $15 million defunded. That's a start. And that $15 million right now, part of that is being implemented with a program that is starting to roll out. They are actually in the hiring process right now for social workers, because police are not social workers, and they don't need to be fulfilling those roles. And that's part of the change that we need to have happen here. So we are taking the money away from the police, and we are putting them into the programs. We are putting them back into the schools, into the communities where the money has been taken away, where the students need it the most. Our Black children, our Asian children, our Hispanic children, our Native children that are being left behind. That's where the money is getting put. And that is just the beginning of what we are doing. We are also working with the city and the government and our community together. We are all putting our 2 cents in on what we want to have changed. And we are working on that. It's a process, but it's happening.
I just wanted to respond to that. That wasn't me, that was she asked.
Oh, yes.
So, because I know what you guys as far as funding the police, I have no question in that. And for me personally, I really like in violence interrupted. I don't know if you guys are familiar with, you might call it something else. So, one of the things that I would like to talk to you guys about instantly, because I heard him say that when he wants to defund the police by putting in a program, for me, especially in mental health situations, and a lot of cities may have already had them, the police shouldn't even be going out there. Okay, so we need outside organizations and outside entities, which I call violence interrupters, for non-violent crimes, or crimes where the police shouldn't show up in our community, where individuals like me, or the young man there, or the young man here, or the young lady there, we can show up on the screen first and de-escalate the situation, and then hand it over to the police, or individuals that can actually.
That's actually.
It's just his opinion. I mean,
At the end of the day, you're gonna have some type of law enforcement. Okay, you're gonna have to have some type of protection. Listen to what I'm saying. Even if you enforce your law enforcement yourself, would you rather have the police showing up at a scene for a domestic violence or a person with a mental health situation, or would you rather have a mental health professional show up?
That
person down the street who's the grandmother, older lady we all know, she knows everyone. She comes in, she says, okay, we need to time out, we need a second. Sometimes when they order other alternatives.
Well, what I'm saying is, once the police are called, they're gonna come. Okay? When the police are called, they're gonna come. They're not gonna not come because you call them back and say, grandma got it. Right. So what I'm saying is, once the police are called, okay? When police are called, they're coming, okay? They may not be the individual that deals with me as a black person, because they don't understand me. That's how we get killed in a lot of situations, because the police are called. Right, but if you defund it and put the funding into individuals like us that can show up on the scene instead of the police, or before the police are still gonna show up.
Someday.
And we can take the
So I live in Eugene, I'm from Portland, I live in Eugene, we got to think about it. So basically what he is trying to say is something like the Hoots,
That is exactly the program that Portland has in place now with this money.
Or you have an individual that like rides with the police that says you can't.
But they
you have an individual.
One at a time, please. One at a time. One at a time.
If you have an individual on the scene that's not police that can directly say, you can't do that. You can't arrest me.
That's exactly the program.
As his perspective though, I don't want to speak for you, but from what it sounds like, I can probably speak for everyone in this room, abolitionists. We want the police abolished. He sounds like a reformist. Okay, so think of this from a reformist standpoint of what he's saying basically. I don't agree with what he's saying, but what he's saying is basically, so how Cahoots works in Eugene is like, when you call 911, you have to tell the dispatch that you want to get to Cahoots. But we are pushing to get them a separate dispatch system, so you have to go through the police. So what he's trying to say basically is that there needs to be someone, a police officer, which I don't agree with. I think that should just be a person that is there to handle non-violent crime, because the thing what you're saying though is like having the police there automatically raises the chance for somebody getting hurt. So there's no need to have, like if there's like a domestic violence occurring, if there's something non-violent, someone getting pulled over, something that's non-violent crime, there's zero reason for someone with a gun to be there. There's zero reason for them to be there.
Right.
Like it's absolutely only putting people at risk and in danger for someone to be there. So when we say abolish the police, to just give you a quick background of what that means, that is obviously going to be a journey to do that, defund, dismantle, reform, abolish. Like when we get to abolishing though, that doesn't mean there's not going to be a system in place to protect you from violent crime. That's not what it means at all. It just can't be the police, because the police is a systematic racism system that can't be saved, right?
So when you talk about like Jack, so right now, if a different individual showed up in a case like Daniel Pruitt, a mental health individual showed up there instead of the police, who actually took a choke bag over his head and choked him out and killed him, and then the mayor and the sheriff police covered up the murder. In a situation like that, you have a mental health individual that shows up on the scene and subdues him and does what they can do as a mental health professional. And then when the police show up, they say, why do you need the police to show up? Because this is how the system's already set in place. You're not going to be immediately get that change. How many years do you think it's going to change that? So until then, you do nothing. Until then, you do nothing. So then you have, so you have steps. So you have steps. So then you do things you can immediately do now. Like stick an individual right there, right now, in between the police. And start to cut it down now instead of saying, oh, we're not going to do nothing. We're going to continue to let the police show up.
Okay. We're going to start wrapping this up now. Excuse me, y'all. Excuse me, y'all. Excuse me, y'all. Excuse me, y'all. 1 second, y'all. Let's start wrapping this up. We're in a large conversation. We can keep this conversation going, but the event itself has got to end, right? Really quickly, I want to remind our black leaders and our streamers that we are one of the last people in the country to be streaming. So once everybody else is done, once New York is done protesting, once Milwaukee's done protesting, once Denver's done protesting, then people see us, right? They're finished watching everything else, and then they turn on us because we're the last ones on, right? And so I think it would be smart for our black leaders to remember that that's when the nation is watching us, towards the end of the night. That's when everybody has their eyes on us, right? So at that point in time, all we're doing right then is we're fighting the police, and we're at the point where we're fed up and had enough. I think we might need to remember that we're the last in the nation. So if we start speaking a lot later and bringing our voices, making our voices heard louder later, I think the rest of the nation might hear more of what we have to say later.
Yeah, that's facts. There's also a problem when like black voices are not getting lifted up by white people.
That's very true.
That's the problem.
And that's what we need to do, to amplify the voice of people of color.
You go to the Justice Center late at night and you try to get a crowd to come listen to a black people speak, they're not going to like people.
Alright.
No,
Excuse me real quick. You said something about white people not uplifting black people's voices. That is the problem. Lift every voice and sing is our ownership to own our narrative. It is our right to own our own voices and our own plight. And if we continue to give that responsibility to white people, we continue in this systematic oppression. So let's make sure that we are owning our own narrative. Right? So we create our own media. She was talking about stream. Roland and Martin. The importance of streaming is what I heard, and I'm not a big streamer. But how media now has portrayed the plight of black people cannot be trusted. So Portland, Milwaukee, Chicago, all of you all, this is our media now. We talked about what do we do when we want to get back at the oppressor. We take their tool away from them. So you take their tool away from them and you start showing the real deal. We begin to fund our own media resources. We begin to fund our own streaming companies. That's how we take their tools away from them and tell our story. I'm sorry,
I'm Dee. I'm an activist. I have the privilege of being able to tour the country and learn about what is going on in all the rest of the states. We went to Minneapolis, we went to Louisville, Detroit, Chicago, Ohio, Cleveland, Montana, Yellowstone. We went to a bunch of places, and one thing that I learned was the division in the movement between the black community is different in every place. And I also learned that the protesting is different. And so when you are a guest and you are coming into somebody's city, you have to first listen to them before you try to speak to them. Because the culture, the city's culture, the protesting culture, the culture of the division in the city is different. And so when the people of the city are trying to tell you of what their goal is, we need to be listening to the goal. Because in this movement, there's two goals. There's what's happening in your city, and there's what's happening nationwide. And so as an activist who's doing both, I'm doing things in my city, and I'm also going to other places and traveling to other states to see the movement. And what I've noticed is that this movement, clearly from this discussion today, is very divided. And that's not okay, that's a problem. But, speaking specifically for our city, for Portland, and speaking for the streaming, one thing that I've learned personally, and I believe this with everything, there's no good cops in the racial system. But, yes, but I also see the difference between cops in other cities and cops in my city. Yeah. And one thing that I have to say is when I've gone to other cities, I've seen cops interacting with protesters in a good way. And I want to say like, oh, those are good people. They're not good cops. But one thing that people who are coming into my city need to know, our police are white supremacists. Yes. There are police officers, I'm sorry, the police are talking, please let me finish, but there's police officers who are walking around wearing cowboy shirts, wearing cowboy hats on, throwing up white power symbols. And when we talk about media and when we talk about the revolution not being televised, this is a prime example. There's a reason why Portland is the focal point of this movement. It's not because we are rioting, it's not because Portland is violent. Portland is violent, but not in the ways of this movement. And that is exactly what's being portrayed to me. The movement in Portland is violent. And that's just not true. I mean, there's definitely people who have done shady things, but speaking for myself, I call it out as I see it. And if I see someone doing something that's not for the movement, I don't care if you're yellow, I don't care if you're white, I don't call out. Because this is about unity.
streaming, I personally, I don't like streaming because I keep my identity safe and I keep my identity hidden as much as possible. Because there's a lot of cities who are fighting for the movement, and the one thing that they're fighting against is the system. They don't have Proud Boys. They don't have Trump supporters. They don't have the police officers who are white supremacists doing the same thing at the same time. When we talk about our security, and we have people like Juice being our security, and people, our motorcade and our medics and all of those people blocking off our streets for us and doing all these amazing things. When I rolled up on a Trump rally, the people blocking off the exits and like helping them move through are the Portland police. And so people are not understanding, not only are we dealing with the racist system, but we're dealing with racist people at the core. And so one thing that I have to say about streaming is personally, and with the connections that I have like out on the streets and out in the field, is that these people, before they start recording, come up to me and say, can I film you? Because that's how the culture is here, and that's how it has to be. Because people are being grabbed off the streets. People are being shot down. Personally, one thing that you had said, Frank, that kind of caught me off guard a little bit, is when you said that the riots in Portland, that the police are not tear gassing for no reason.
People are what?
Like the rioting in Portland, like we're not being tear gassed for no reason. One thing that people need to understand is that as a young woman in this, I'm only 22. I'm very young for this movement. And so when I do my research and I see things pop up, because things that are being like live streamed, there are people, and I've seen personal messages, there are people who are here only to infiltrate. And it's very hard, especially living in one of the whitest cities in America and being a black woman, you don't know who your allies are all the time.
That's right.
And you stand out. And so I'm a little frustrated because this whole streaming thing of like everything needs to be like on camera. I can see what you're saying, but also understand from our perspective. When we were in the car, when we were on the road trip, I was looking at messages of a discussion between Proud Boys, and they were talking about someone that I know specifically on the street, of how they're going to hurt him, to kill him, to do whatever they're going to do to silence him. And so these people, there are people who are watching things being posted and looking for faces and targeting people. And so there's things that I've even gone throughout this movement that I have to check myself and go, wait, is this just like random, wrong place, wrong time, or was this a targeted offense? And so these are the things that we constantly have to keep in mind. And speaking on the riots and everything, when everything was happening down at the Justice Center, I was speaking. I had the microphone in my hand when I got shot down. And one thing that I noticed is the wall of moms, they didn't budge. So what does that tell you? The feds were shooting at me. They weren't shooting at them. They weren't shooting at the crowd. They were shooting at the person peacefully speaking to the people. And so, like, I need people to be aware of that, and I need people who are coming into the city to first listen to what we're saying.
I speak power and truth to the movement of the people that's in here. I speak energy to uplift you. I speak, right? I want you guys to know that, yes, I see it, I feel you. Everything that you said at 22 years old, my babies are 23. And to see you out here in this movement is awesome. I've learned so much about Portland just being in this room. And then over the it's been like 5 weeks talking to Carissa, wanting to know about your government, wanting to know about what's happening with black women in Portland. What is going on with our black boys in Portland? So Carissa has been a really good resource to help educate me on Portland and the things that's going on here. Samantha don't protest. I went out probably 3 years ago in Illinois to protest for baby Samaje, a baby that was murdered. Found dead under couch. It was ruled a homicide, and none of the adults in the home had been arrested. And what moved me to go out and protest was Department of Children and Family Services and how they executed that case, and being someone who was already working in the system and knowing that the system had utterly failed that child is why I drove from Atlanta back to Illinois to stand on the front line and protest, but also meet with the leadership in that, it was in Joliet, about what had happened to that child. You're right. When in our communities across the country, we are divided. So we don't want to just look at this as this is just a now. This is something that's been systemic. This is a part of a systemic plan of America. The millennials, I'm so proud of you guys because Generation X, and I have to be honest, we didn't do right by y'all. We were more concerned about our well-being, our careers, and getting to the middle class, right? And I said we, even though I was a late bloomer. You know, I got in this thing late, y'all. At 30 years old, I went back and got my GED. I went to school 5 years around the clock, a season around the clock, and 5 years I landed my master's in social work from Clark Atlanta University. And so what I want more than anything is to this energy, this power that God gave me, this message that he gave me of empowerment to bring this to Portland.